Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In case you're new here, my name is Chris, I'm a student in Germany and I make videos about useful tech to make your everyday life easier. In this video, I'll tell you about my experience with the Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro after owning it for a month. As always, there will be timestamps in the description for different parts of the video in case you want to jump ahead. First, I'll give you a short conclusion to save you some time if you're just here for that. After that, I'll go over the keyboard and trackpad itself, how it changes the iPad, give you a short comparison to the smart keyboard Folio, and in the end, I will help you find out if this is the right purchase for you. All in all, this is a great product. It truly changed the way I use my iPad, making it more like a traditional laptop, while managing to keep the fast, reliable and easy iPad experience I love. It made the iPad Pro even better for real work. The keyboard and trackpad both work great and are seamlessly integrated into iPadOS. Even though some apps could have better support for the keyboard, I think if you want the best iPad setup, especially for productivity, this is the way to go. Okay, let's dive a little deeper into the actual hardware. The keyboard is now a scissor switch keyboard again, compared to the butterfly switches on the smart keyboard Folio, which makes for more key travel and a more reliable keyboard. Having used a butterfly keyboard on a MacBook Pro, which was my main work device before this iPad, and also the smart keyboard Folio, I can tell you this is the best typing experience you can get right now. The keys kept the tactile typing experience from the butterfly keyboards that I actually really liked, but just made it a little less drastic with the added key travel. The trackpad also works great, you can click anywhere and get the same feedback, but I kinda wish it was a little bit bigger, especially coming from a MacBook Pro with a huge trackpad. Also, even though the clicking mechanism is probably one of the best out of all the traditional trackpads out there, I still like the Force Touch technology on the MacBooks more, but both of that is probably due to the small form factor on the iPad Pro, so I'm fine with it. Also, the need for a massive trackpad isn't really there, since you could always use the touchscreen on the iPad instead, which you obviously can't on a MacBook. Some reviews hated on the fact that there's no row of function keys, but I never had that complaint in day-to-day use. The only thing missing in my opinion are keyboard shortcuts to adjust the iPad's brightness and volume, but hopefully that will be fixed in a future update. Software-wise, the trackpad is integrated perfectly. I love the new cursor even better than the traditional Mac cursor, as it can adapt to most apps and circumstances in the OS, which is great for things like text editing. Sadly, that does not work so seamlessly with all apps yet, and there are still some basic things I miss, like pressing the space bar to pause a YouTube video. Let's just hope apps will adapt to the new input methods over time, and the experience will become even better. One thing we absolutely have to talk about with this keyboard is how it changed the way I use my iPad. Before, I had the smart keyboard Folio and never really took my iPad out of it, since you could fold it back to have your traditional iPad. With the Magic Keyboard, that is not possible anymore, and initially I was kind of worried about that. I use my iPad in landscape mode and with the keyboard most of the times, but I also take written notes for university, and I was afraid that that might be an unwieldy process with the Magic Keyboard, and that it might take away from the tablet experience too much. After 1 month, I can say that it did in fact change the way I use my iPad, but not in a bad way at all. The floating mechanism actually makes it much easier to take off the iPad and use it as a tablet, since the keyboard is not attached to the bottom of the iPad anymore. In my use case, the Magic Keyboard made the distinction between using the iPad as a laptop and using it as an actual iPad much clearer, and that's actually a really good thing. When it's docked, the workflow is almost the same as on the MacBook, while with the smart keyboard Folio it always felt like a worse experience compared to a laptop. And the same goes for tablet mode. Before I was able to keep the keyboard on the iPad while using it as a tablet, but that also made it much heavier and thicker. With the Magic Keyboard, I can just take it off and have the very light and pure iPad experience. Being able to switch between those two use cases so quickly and seamlessly made the iPad so much better in my opinion, and it now feels like I have two completely different devices, even though it is actually just one that can fundamentally change into a different device within less than a second. Before I got this Magic Keyboard, I ordered the Smart Keyboard Folio to try that out, since the iPad Pro came out more than a month before the Magic Keyboard. I was also concerned about the weight of the Magic Keyboard, so I was even thinking about keeping the Smart Keyboard Folio instead. But having used both the Magic Keyboard and the Smart Keyboard Folio now, even though it is almost double the price of the Smart Keyboard Folio, there is no comparison. Sure, if the iPad is your secondary device, you could get away with buying the Smart Keyboard Folio and saving some money, because it is not bad at all. In fact, the typing experience on it, considering the weight and slim form factor, is incredible. But all in all, I think you'll still look forward to switching back to your laptop for the real work, because it can provide a real laptop experience. Yes, the Magic Keyboard is twice as heavy, but do 400 grams in your backpack really make a difference? That additional weight also creates this awesome laptop experience, and the floating mechanism on the Magic Keyboard, that only works because of the added weight, is way better than the adjustments you can make on the Smart Keyboard Folio. The Folio only has two angles, and sometimes both are just not right. Also, the screen ends right where the keyboard begins, which makes the bottom quarter of your iPad touchscreen harder to access. With the floating mechanism on the Magic Keyboard, the iPad is closer to your eyes, which not only makes the screen seem bigger than it is, it also makes using the touchscreen in addition to mouse and keyboard much more convenient. And if you're worried about note-taking, as I said before, taking the iPad off is so fast it will actually be easier than folding the keyboard back. So if you really want to get real work done on your iPad, I think the Magic Keyboard is the way to go. Okay, time to make your purchase decision. And after hearing all the good stuff about the keyboard, this is where the price comes in. The price of the Magic Keyboard at $399 or euros makes it more expensive than the newest base model iPad, and at that price point it is kinda hard to justify that purchase. With the cheaper iPad and a different keyboard, you get a very similar experience for a third of the price. Still, I think there are two groups of people that should look into buying this keyboard, even though it is ridiculously expensive. The first one are people with enough spare cash to buy an iPad Pro and Magic Keyboard. If you don't care about the difference between 500 and 1500, sure, the iPad Pro is the best experience you can get right now, and just a little bit more pleasant than a regular iPad. And if you're in a position right now where the price doesn't really matter, by all means go ahead and buy the Magic Keyboard and the new iPad, because you won't regret it. But since I think most of us are not in that group, I think the Magic Keyboard is mostly worth buying for the people that do not own a MacBook or a laptop anymore and switch to an iPad Pro for all their work. If you have sold your laptop and bought an iPad Pro already, the cost of the Magic Keyboard is money very well spent, since it will enhance the iPad experience and make it much more usable for the kind of work you would normally do on your laptop. And if you compare the price of an iPad Pro with Magic Keyboard to a MacBook Pro with a base iPad as a secondary device, it does not seem so expensive anymore. In addition to that, having one device for all your work makes the whole experience much more seamless. Of course, that's only my opinion and won't work for everyone. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. If you have used the Magic Keyboard or thought about buying one, tell me about your opinion in the comments below. Also, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.